No one wears a t-shirt that says, "I masturbate to pornography regularly."
Hey, welcome everyone. It has been proven that porn addiction can be detrimental to our sex life, relationships, and desire to find a partner. In today's discussion, we're going to reference Dr. Jordan Peterson's views on porn addiction, explore strategies for avoiding it, and provide guidance on how to break free if you're already struggling with this addiction. So, sit tight and let's get started.
Pornography is very hard on young men and on young women. It's hard on them physiologically because it interferes with sexual function. It sets a ridiculous and unattainable standard for young women, a crazy standard. And it's unbelievably addictive.
What are your thoughts about porn and masturbation and how it affects men?
It's a second-rate solution to a complicated problem. And if it wasn't that, then it would be something that people took pride in, in a real sense, as an accomplishment. And everyone laughs about that because it's so preposterous. And so you kind of know it's a second-rate solution. And that's put young men in particular, who are very susceptible to visual sexual imagery, far more than young women, by the way. So they're super stimuli in some sense, right? And the problem is it's a dead end, and it's not one without cost. And so it's a suboptimal solution, let's put it that way. You might say, well, is that absolutely necessary? And maybe there's nothing wrong with pornography. It's like, well, I don't know, man. Like, have you ever really met a guy who is proud of that? Like, you know what I mean? That makes him feel like, I'm the guy, man. I'm watching pornography and getting off. I don't believe anyone feels that. And to me, that's an indication that, yeah, we know. No, it's pretty cheap. It's a non-trivial technological problem. It's now possible for young men to look at more beautiful nude women in one day than any man has ever seen, prior to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, than any man in history had ever seen. That's not nothing. That's something. And to think that doesn't do anything to you, it's like, no, that likely does something to you. One of the reasons that pornography is so rampant, even among people who are in relatively permanent relationships, is that it's a bad approximation to a good art. I would say that anything that reduces motivation to establish a credible and intimate, productive, generous, and reciprocal long-term relationship, anything that interferes with that is to be viewed with extreme skepticism. And it's so difficult to do that you don't want to deprive yourself of any of the deprivation that might motivate you to do it. And so that's what it looks like to me. Things could be better, and you don't have the wherewithal at the moment to make them better. So the thing that's interesting about that is there's a kind of radical humiliation and humility that goes along with that. So you say, I have a problem, and what I know at the moment isn't sufficient to solve it. Great, because now you've opened yourself up to the possibility of learning something. Because you say, I don't know enough to fix this. It's like, okay, well, you could learn. And one of the things that's so interesting about people is that if they decide they have a problem, and they also notice that they could learn, the probability that they will learn goes way up. It isn't that you're trying to quit porn. It's not the right way to think about it. The right way to think about it is that you're trying to figure out how to have a better life. Porn isn't the issue. The issue is that you're not living your life the way you want to. And so you need a vision of life that's more compelling than the porn. And you need a counter vision too that frightens you. Because otherwise, porn is obviously extraordinarily gratifying in the short term, but you seem to be suffering from the medium to long-term consequences of its use. And so you need a story that you can tell yourself that's really deeply thought through about why this is not appropriate for you, how it's hurting you, and how it's minimizing you and perhaps making you embarrassed and ashamed and more socially isolated and all of that. You also might want to write down everything bad that you think porn is doing to you, because obviously you have some suspicions that this is not good for you, right? That it's actually harming you in some important way. And so you need to be fully cognizant of what those ways are and then take them seriously and decide if that's the pathway through life on which you wish to travel. Don't substitute the false for the real, and don't underestimate the utility of deprivation. What do we need to drive us forward to have the adventure of our life? Well, some deprivation, that's for sure. That heightens desire and drive. And maybe you need that. You're afraid to approach a woman. Well, you remove part of your drive with pornography. And so now you don't have that sexual urge to overcome that anxiety. And so you stay timid for your entire life. Maybe not, but maybe. People's sexual longing is deep and plastic. It takes an awful lot of courage to make what it demands consciously apprehensible and communicable, and to share that desire with the person that you love. That's the true revelation of nakedness. That's another way of thinking about it, because what else would that be? But if you dare to do that, you might find out that you can encourage an active partner in play, and that will provide you with what you need and want within the confines of a relationship that also simultaneously provides you with everything else you need and want. And that's a pretty good deal. And so how do you occupy an ethical position and keep the erotic tension in your relationship? Well, one answer to that is, that's why you get married, right? Because the marital vow, which is a vow of permanence and a vow of mutual reciprocity, and a vow to stay together regardless of the storms that are coming, means that you have enough of a commitment to ethically justify the mutual revelation of your nakedness. That's a good way of thinking about it. Properly integrated sexual life is part of the highest ethical endeavor, and there's nothing wrong, and in fact very much that is right, in allowing yourself to realize what you need and want and determining how to share that with a partner who is also pursuing exactly the same thing.